Moving on. Two simple words, yet within this simple construct lies an eternity of questions, decisions, implications, and meaning. It's a commonality that all people can relate with, and most of us, if not all, have different ways of moving on. And in this time of uncertainty especially, we've all been presented with this strange new reality. For some of us, it's affected us more than others, but everyone has felt the effects of this global pandemic in some way, shape, or form. No one really has any context as to what the future looks like. Planning for what lies ahead is limited to a day-by-day basis and can change at any moment. And there's an overwhelming sense of powerlessness among our wider communities. But I wonder, how much did we really control before any of this happened? Looking on a more inward basis, this new season has likely been a time of revealing in our own lives, a chance to bring patterns into a new light. Perhaps has revealed your priorities and what you hold important, and maybe things you didn't even really think about before all this. Now, journeys are our own, and sharing your experiences with each other, especially in this time, where it can be very easy to fall into the trap of isolation, is critical. I guess one of the big things that we're all looking forward to in one way or another is getting back to a sense of normal. Our old way of doing things has been suddenly stripped away from us. Simple privileges that we would take for granted are suddenly gone, almost overnight it seems. And when sudden change occurs, you don't get any closure. And that's where we look to old patterns to fulfill our needs. I wonder if our normal that we are so desperate to get back to is really just a trap. And that instead of longing for what was, perhaps now is the perfect time to embrace what can be in faith. In Romans chapter 12, verses 1 to 2, it says this. It says, "So then, my brothers and sisters, because of God's great mercy, I appeal to you, offer yourselves as a living sacrifice to God, dedicated to his service and pleasing to him. This is the true worship that you should offer. Do not conform yourselves to the patterns of this world, but let God transform you inwardly by a complete change of your minds. Then you will be able to know the will of God, which is good, pleasing to him, and is perfect." The beauty of this passage is that God has already changed our hearts when we accept his free gift of salvation. It's our habits that need to change, or our patterns. God has already brought us into salvation, but he transforms us from the inside out, which is a major contradiction to the world around us. The very nature of addiction is depending on the wrong source to meet your needs. It's not that the needs are necessarily wrong, it's the way we go about them that can so easily trap us. Especially in times like this, when things don't really make any sense, and it's easy to reach out for familiarity instead of turning to faith. So how is this change of the mind that Paul is talking about in Romans unfold in our lives? For me, the book of Proverbs is a good place to go to when asking these questions. It's full of advice on how to live a wise and prosperous life. Its many short sayings teach us a lot about humility, patience, self-control, loyalty, and respect. This book is primarily written by a man named Solomon, who himself was considered to be one of the wisest men to walk this earth. And these writings are designed to help recognize wisdom and good advice and give understanding to sayings with deep meanings. All throughout this book, Solomon is pleading for the reader to seek out wisdom wholeheartedly and how it will help guide our every action in life. The first step to attaining this knowledge, though, is found in verse 7, chapter 1, which reads like this. It says, "To have knowledge, you must first have reverence for the Lord." To have knowledge, you must first have reverence for the Lord. This has also been translated to say the most important part of knowledge is having reverence for the Lord. And I kind of like that a bit better. What is reverence, though? I mean, what a word that doesn't really get used in a societal context these days. But reverence can be defined as a deep respect for someone or something, or a gesture that is indicative of deep respect, like a bow. I don't know how many people you've bowed for recently, but It's about as deep a respect as you can give. Maybe you should give it a go. Solomon is urging us to live our lives in a way that everything we do reflects this deep and reverent respect for the Lord, that everything we do matters, and every moment is a chance for us to express our deep love to the Creator of the universe. Another of my favourite proverbs is from chapter 4, verse 23. It's quite well known. It says, "Be careful how you think. Your life is shaped by your thoughts." Be careful how you think. Your life is shaped by your thoughts. Do you know God hears our thoughts just as loud as he hears our words? Kind of brings our thought patterns to a new light, doesn't it, thinking it in this way? He goes on to say later in verse 26, just a few down, to plan carefully what you do, and whatever you do will turn out right. So be careful how you think, and plan carefully, and whatever you do will turn out right. Notice how he says it doesn't turn out as plans, just that it turns out right. Crazy. Deep insight. All throughout this book, there's wisdom and insight to be found for the discerning heart. Friends, transformation has already started. In this season that we find ourselves in, it almost seems like it's accelerated in a way. And while our outside circumstances have slowed down around us, we've been forced to reevaluate our lives and what really matters. Maybe this is a chance to really move forward and let go of some of the things that have held us back. Sometimes we struggle to receive something new that God is doing in our lives because we can't let go of control. But to hold on to something too tight can sometimes do more damage than loosening our grip. New blessings can often look like threats because we can't let go of what is comfortable. Just because we're used to living a certain way doesn't make it normal. Maybe it's just old. The call of Christ is to live a transformed life that reflects his values of love, that encourages us to live in a careful way that will ultimately deny ourselves out of love for each other. So as we move forward, let's move forward in faith, pressing on towards what's ahead and trusting that we have a God bigger than our present circumstances. Did God cause COVID-19? I don't think so, but you would have to take it up with him. I do know that he will use this season to reveal himself though. So let's continue to move forward, living a transformed life that relies on faith over control.